why you can't lose belly fat. I'm working hard. I am trying to do my absolute damnedest to find results, and I just can't. I'm gonna be honest. You're not lazy. You're probably exactly where you should be, right? And at the end of the day, this struggle that you're having is a very common problem that truthfully most people have. And that's okay. And you shouldn't feel abnormal. You shouldn't feel out of it. You shouldn't feel wrong. It's normal, right? But you're working so hard. Why is your stomach not changing, right? The scale making these shifts is a whole different story and a whole different application when it comes to actually integrating with your body. And I want to kind of dive into that today a little bit, right? So a lot of people in today's world, a lot of science talks about calories are simple, right? It's calories in, calories out. Well, that's not necessarily the case, right? They are not the whole story. And especially as we age, I cannot stress this enough, more matters in terms of accessing readily available body fat to lose or gain, depending on what you need to do. Some people do need to gain some fat, but the rudimentary, the very bottom line of this is it's not just calories in, calories out, right? You need to think hormones. You need to think sleep. You need to think stress. You need to think muscle change. That big integration, pulling it all together, is going to help you kind of understand the bigger picture of it all, right? And so let's pull apart a second what belly fat is and why it actually matters. And it is not just the fluff, and it is not just to keep you warm. First things first, it is an active tissue. And what does that mean? It does things for the body. It is moving and shaking within you. It is not just sitting there. Firstly, it stores energy. Fat is an energy source, and I don't know if you knew that, right? But our body burns a bunch of different things for energy: protein, carbs, fats, oxygen, amongst some of them. And they're readily converted at different rates and speeds into what's called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Fat being one of those key instances, key ingredients. And realistically, when people think about losing body fat, they think it just magically comes off of them. They don't understand that they have to access this tissue. We need to figure out how to access that tissue, right? And so when we're talking about, especially after 35, especially training for the future, we need to think about the ways we are accessing this energy. Nextly, fat as a concept, it protects your organs. It is actually an insulator, both from impact and damage, like let's say you fall or something of the sort, but it is also an insulator in terms of thermodynamics. So we need to think about heat and energy exchange as just as important as a mechanism as working out, right? We're looking at body fat differently than just, this stuff that's sitting there, right? Nextly, when we think about body fat, we need to think about, as I had said, the thermodynamic side of things, but also your endocrine system and how it's regulating your hormones. Massively important. And if we do not understand that fat is a regulator to the endocrine system, we are going to be completely lost, right? So where you store it matters, why you're storing it matters, how you access it matters. And when you're after 35, how you integrate with body fat starts to change. And the older you get, becomes even harder. Some of these examples are, recovery, right? You're losing muscle mass at rates as we get older. Stress is hitting harder. Poor sleep costs more. And then there's random effort, right? And it kind of stops working to just kind of sporadically go into the gym and sporadically go do a random walk, and then all of a sudden, poof, or you just magically change your diet tomorrow and poof, the weight falls off. Your recovery is slower. As I have dove into sleep, our sleep academy, vibrant sleep, the whole vibrant wellness system, the backbone of the fountain of youth, what this is connected to, is all about recovery and sleep. And what we can determine is sleep is the hidden belly fat driver. First and foremost, how you are recovering directly integrates into if you are going to lose weight or not. And the more you can kind of shift your mindset into understanding that weight loss will be substantially easier will be substantially more tangible, will be able to integrate more into your life. If you are sleeping appropriately, the easier this will be. They reviewed literature, the National Institute of Health, and that links sleep deprivation with increased energy intake, more snacking, higher intake of fat and carb-dense foods, and worse body fat outcomes. Older research also links short sleep with abdominal fat accumulation. Weight gain, period. It's not kind of an arguable fact. It is what it is. So we need to think about, okay, first things first, how can we start to recover more appropriately, or at least integrate some recovery protocols into our life? Next, we need to think about stress, especially when you're trying to lose that belly fat, because this is where people, they always think it's a workout. They always think it's just going to be nutrition. Calories in, calories out. That's it. I'm just going to magically lose weight. Hate to break it to you. After 35, it does not happen that way. So first things first, chronic stress is going to be a big one, right? This is going to change how you store the fat. And so one thing you need to understand about fat is there is a high amount of what you consider cortisol receptors in the tissue. And so when stress goes up, cortisol goes up, those receptors perk up and you naturally accumulate more fat. Secondly, cortisol affects appetite and metabolism. So when I am stressed, you suppress insulin sensitivity, right? And you increase that need to snack. It dulls that insulin sensitivity. So the foods that you're eating, you're not regulating as readily, as well as then your metabolism is all over the place, right? And so it's not that cortisol is bad, right? We need cortisol. We need that stress hormone in the body. It's just how are we integrating it and how it affects us. We need to start to tap into weight loss from a different headspace. It's not about working out harder all the time. Hard workouts are important in the right dose, in the right way, in the right mechanism. But it is also about, more importantly, about sleep and stress. When stress is upon us, right, our habits as a whole get disrupted. And in turn, we then have more appetite and more cravings. And lastly, the big thing that we see with weight gain after 35 is our insulin resistance. And a lot of people don't understand that as we age, our insulin sensitivity changes naturally. And that's why you see higher levels of diabetes as time goes on. It's just organs don't work as good as they used to. We can help shift and have an effect on something like insulin sensitivity with something like fasting. And so integrating appropriate, unique coaching techniques into your life can have a direct impact on these different mechanisms and sources. So, right, when we think insulin resistance and sensitivity, the concept of insulin is it helps move sugar into cells and out as needed. When insulin resistance happens, it means the cells stop listening well, right? They're not receptive. They're not paying attention. In turn, blood sugar control gets all over the place. And this is where we see that late onset diabetes come in. And in turn, if you're not there, you'll see belly fat and other problems start to happen. With sleep, with stress, you're probably having an issue if you're gaining weight after 35, where your body may be having trouble handling fuel. And the secret weapon to a lot of this is muscle. And it's not just that I'm working out. It's not that I'm doing cardio. It's not that I'm running around. It's that you are building good, lean tissue. Less muscle means less room for carbs and less help for metabolism. The CDC still recommends both aerobic and muscle strengthening at about 150 minutes of moderate activity and 2 days of strength training. Now, we're going to get into some tactical coaching here in a second, and I'll go through what I practically believe and have seen to work the best for my clients. But I thought it was important to make sure I put in what the CDC talked about in terms of what they recommend. But remember, right, muscle, it's a massively important piece to the pie. It is a living piece of tissue within your body. It helps regulate so many different systems. Check out the YouTube channel if you're curious about what muscle is actually doing, how to integrate more of it, how to eat appropriately for it. I go through all of that. But just for the sake of this conversation, we now know it's important, right? Why, at the end of the day, do you see so many people underplaying muscle growth and overplaying cardio? It's this concept that's taught today that just doesn't make sense, right? So, what kind of system actually is going to work better for you? And this is my 5-pillar system. This is what I've built out over almost 15 years of coaching, and this is what I have seen work tremendously in terms of my clients each and every day. I coach sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress, and social engagement. The social engagement piece was the last piece that came in. And this concept of sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress, and social engagement, this is a holistic concept. But when you zoom back and we look at what belly fat is, we need to understand all the different things that it's doing. We want to up-regulate temperature. We want to normalize hormone control. We want to protect the energy stores that we do have and utilize appropriate energy sources. Your social fulfillment monitors stress, right? If I'm lonely, I'm more stressed. Well, that's going to naturally make you a little bit fluffier. If I'm not eating appropriate food, that's going to help me irregulate or dysregulate my thermogenics, right? Because I'm not appropriately regulating the fuel to the fire. And all of this comes together. These are the 5 pillars of fitness that I believe create long-term success, especially in longevity, especially in weight loss and transformations. But they actually work like spokes in a wheel. And you need to understand that sleep impacts exercise. Exercise impacts sleep. Sleep impacts your social engagement. Social engagement gives you the will to eat better, blah, 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 blah. And you must turn the wheel as a whole, but you cannot only focus on one. You cannot have this single-minded approach. And the more we can think about that, the more you can focus on that, the more successful you will be, right? This concept of hard, and I throw the Orange Theory people under the bus left, right, and center because it's let's get into the gym, let's sprint on the treadmill, let's go over and lift weights, and then let's do it all again tomorrow, 6 days a week. And the problem is most people can't maintain that level of intensity. Most people are undernourished. They are under-recovered. They are high-stressed individuals, and all it does is break their body down, and then I end up seeing them in therapy, right? I fixing things and kind of trying to correct all of the stuff that this type of coaching has failed, right? So this hard strategy that people integrate in terms of too much cardio, too little protein, not enough sleep, blah, 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 blah. Well, this is a problem, right? This is what is failing you in terms of fat loss, especially after 35. So we need to start to think about programming a little smarter. We need to think about integrating these strategies each day a little bit better as well. Now for some coaching, and this is the Vibrant Plan. This is what my baseline is. This comes from our blueprint. However, what I want you to start to do is I want you to lift weights 2 to 4 days a week. 2 is the bare minimum. You need to get good strength training with intensity. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering records, but you need to be at a 7 to an 8, whatever your rep scheme is, but pushing yourself. Man, I worked hard. You need to do zone 2 cardio. This is where that thermogenic effect comes into play, right? Zone 2 cardio is going to be the thing that kind of up-regulates your heat transfer within the body, and it's going to help melt some of that fat. I love to preach kind of Stairmaster, uphill walk, put a weight vest on, go get a wiggle on for about 30 minutes. 1 to 3 days a week. Protein first at every meal. There is a plethora of research and information out there about protein. I have many videos about how much to eat, when to eat it, what it does, but think protein first at every meal. When you wake up in the morning, protein should be the first thing other than maybe a glass of water in your mouth. And you really need to think about how you are regulating nutrition around protein. It's not the other way around. It is the most important piece of that plate. When it comes to recovery, we need to fix the night before you fix the morning, okay? And so we need a sleep and nighttime wind down routine, or I like to call it a downshift, and then we need our up regulation time in the morning. Lastly, we need to calm the nervous system. This is friends, family, your social circle and engagement, but also, do you do breathing techniques? Do you sit and eat each day, or are you on the run? Do you pull away from electronics before bed? Do you think about the inputs that are going to your body each and every day? And if you don't, we need to kind of overhaul this. There's a lot more to it than just, I'm going to sit back and think about being calm. It's actually thinking about the stimuli that you're putting into your nervous system, okay? Go to bed 30 minutes earlier, lift weights 2 times a week, walk after your meals, build each meal around protein. And I put this in there, Measure your waist, not your weight. I want to see pant size go down. If this was helpful, please leave comments below and let me know what you thought was helpful. And comment belly if you want me to dive into a kind of a part 2 for those of you who might want it. I'll go into exactly how to eat and train for stubborn belly fat. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you stay tuned for the next one. And please, school.com/the Fountain of Youth. That is my longevity academy. The free blueprint is up there. I urge you to go check it out, and I can't wait to help you when you get inside. Schedule your free call. You'll talk to me directly, and we can see how I can best help you out.